chronic stress can block fat burning and prevent us from losing weight. Even if you don't feel like you're constantly stressed out, you still might have high cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Maybe being stressed out has just become your normal and you don't even realize that it's impacting you. Now, before we get into the 3 warning signs that you have high cortisol, I want to make it clear that stress is not always a bad thing. Short duration stress can be a good thing. It increases alertness and focus, which is ideal in some situations. When we exercise, for example, this is a stressor that allows us to adapt and grow. When stress becomes a problem is when it's constant or chronic, leading to high cortisol levels for extended periods of time. When our body is in this heightened state of stress, it's more likely to hold on to fat. And cortisol also impacts our hunger hormones, which can cause us to overeat and contribute to the problem even further. Even if you feel like you're doing everything right, you're eating a good diet, you're exercising, but you're still not losing weight, high cortisol might be to blame. And here are 3 key indicators that you're in this situation. The first sign of high cortisol is what is referred to as a buffalo hump, which is this little lump of fat just behind your neck. High levels of the hormone cortisol lead to increased fat storage. And this storage happens in areas of the body that it typically wouldn't, including behind our neck. When people gain weight from simply overeating, this fat tends to get stored evenly throughout the body. When fat builds up in one particular area, this is an indicator that there's an underlying issue. And in this case, it's high cortisol. The second indicator that high cortisol is stopping your weight loss is that you bruise easily. The hormone cortisol can weaken our blood vessels and cause the breakdown of certain proteins in our skin. This means it takes less impact for a bruise to form. If you're someone who is always finding unexplained bruises on your body, high cortisol might be to blame. And the third sign is belly fat. As I mentioned earlier, high stress hormone levels can cause the body to store fat in areas that it typically wouldn't, which includes around our midsection. But there's an added layer here. The type of fat that we store in our abdomen is actually different than the type of fat we store elsewhere on our body. This fat is known as visceral fat, and it builds up around our organs. This fat is hard to the touch, you can't pinch it. If you've ever seen someone with a disproportionately large belly to the rest of their body, and particularly if it's hard, this is the type of fat we're talking about. And this type of fat is actually additionally problematic because it releases certain proteins that cause inflammation throughout the body, which leads to further issues. The other type of fat is subcutaneous fat. This is the type of fat that you can pinch, and it's simply your body's stored energy. Now, I will say that you can have visceral fat below subcutaneous fat. So if you can pinch your belly, that doesn't mean you're in the clear. If you are prone to storing fat around your midsection, then high cortisol is definitely something to consider and address. Okay, but what can you do if you have high cortisol? One of the top causes of chronic high cortisol is poor sleep. So before you even make any other changes, I would make sure that your sleep is on point. Study after study has shown that cortisol levels are higher in shift workers versus non-shift workers. And this is mainly to do with their inconsistent sleep patterns. Even after just one night of poor sleep, we have higher levels of cortisol the following day. So stick to a consistent bedtime and wake time, limit blue light exposure in the evenings, and have a good wind down routine, which can include a hot shower before bed, which will lead to your body rebounding and lowering in temperature, consistent with our circadian rhythm. This will help you sleep. It can also mean reading before bed, meditating before bed. Anything you can do to calm your nervous system will help. The next thing you can do is practice breath work. And this kind of ties in with what I was just saying about our nervous system. Controlling your breathing, in particular extending your exhales, helps to regulate your nervous system and helps you to calm down. Even just 3 big inhales followed by extended exhales can slow down your heart rate, it can bring down your stress levels, and bring down your cortisol. And I know some people are a bit iffy on breath work, whether it works or not, but let me tell you, it is supported by the literature. I'm going to put some links to studies in the description box down below. The next way you can reduce your cortisol levels is to decrease your sugar intake. High sugar diets can increase our stress and our cortisol levels. Now, if you are someone who has a sweet tooth, I'm gonna give you my number one tip that has helped me. As someone who naturally does have a really big sweet tooth, this is something I've implemented that has helped me to keep my sweet tooth under control for years. And the tip is to eat at least 30 grams of quality protein at every single meal. Not only does it help with satiety, so you're less likely to be hungry in between meals, but it also helps to regulate your blood sugar. Because usually when we're getting sugar cravings, it's because we've had a blood sugar spike and our blood sugar is now crashing. If we don't have this spike, then we won't have the crash and we won't have as many cravings. And quality protein can help with that. Now, when I say quality protein, I am specifically referring to animal protein. And I get this from Butcher Crowd. Butcher Crowd is a meat delivery service here in Australia that offers 100% grass-fed and finished beef and lamb, pasture-raised chicken and pork, and wild-caught Australian seafood, all locally sourced, with the exception of their salmon, which is sourced from overseas because no salmon in Australia is wild-caught, so in order to get the salmon wild-caught, they had to source it from elsewhere. But all the other seafood is wild-caught from Australia. They have a range of boxes to choose from and also the option to customize your own. I recently just switched up my order to a completely custom box. And the one thing I always make sure to include in my order is their sausages. They contain no added sugar or filler, and they are so delicious. If you want to check them out, you can head to healthcoachkait.com/butchercrowd. I'll put that link in the description box down below, and you can use code HCK15 at checkout to save 15% off your order. And there's a reason I recommend animal protein. Plant protein simply doesn't compare. It's not as bioavailable, you're not able to use as much when you consume it from plants versus animals. And it's really hard to get enough throughout the day when you're just focusing on plant sources, because 99% of plant protein comes with a whole lot of carbs and a whole lot of calories. Let me know if you have any of these signs of high cortisol in the comment section down below, and which of the steps you're going to implement first to lower it. Thanks guys for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.